Hello, people of the internet. Welcome back to TK is Outlandish. I am the TK of TK is Outlandish. In real life, my name is Teresa, and on the other side of the screen is my husband, and his name is Ryan.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for coming back, and if you have subscribed, we're up to, I think, 116 subscribers, so that's cool. That was way higher than I ever thought we would get. So,
Yeah,
really, I was
great.
like, yeah, I was
Great.
like, yeah,
100 people, that's plenty.
yeah, yes. Nobody subscribe anymore. um, But we're here. If you're new here by the title, you might have guessed that we review Outlander, and I have read the books, all the books, and Ryan has not read any of the books. So we go over it, and we look at it more from a how how it translates to a TV show, because that's just what I'm interested in. I've said this in several episodes, or several of our episodes. But if you're new, that's just what I like to do. I like to compare. I like to see how things um, transpire into a movie or a TV series. In this case, obviously a TV series. So that's about it. And tonight we were going to talk about episode 707, A Practical Guide for Time Travelers. And this is the earliest we've gotten, I think. Maybe we did it one other time that we got a review after the initial airing.
It's busy.
Um,
We've been busy. What do you want?
I'm so tired. I'm drinking wine. That'll help.
That
Are
does
you
help.
drink? Are you drinking any whiskey tonight?
I'm
No.
not drinking my whiskey tonight. I had my rum and coke earlier. Then that's just going to have to be my drink for the night.
We definitely have to do the Sassenach for the mid-season finale, as they
Yeah.
called it.
Yep, definitely.
So, it was written by Margot Yee, I think, or Ye. It's Y-E. And it was directed by Joss Agnew. So very quick summary. Jamie and Claire engage in, well, mostly Jamie, but Claire's there too, engage in the first battle of Saratoga. William insists on being in the battle and loses a friend. Bree and Roger find Buck McKenzie, and Rod Cameron seemingly reads the letters from Jamie and Claire and takes off with Jemmy. That's pretty much it, right?
That's pretty concise.
Yes, because we go into it more in depth. So there's everything. Okay, so before we bring up the first picture, I just loved that the title card was Tufty the squirrel, and I don't think you saw it. I was like, it's Tufty, and you had no idea what I was talking about.
No idea. You were very excited, and I had no idea why.
there was so many there are so many callbacks in this season that I have noticed, because I've watched like every episode probably at least 6 times. But in season 5, when Roger was trying to learn how to shoot, to be part of like the militia, and he missed a squirrel, and he was like, oh, it's like shooting Tufty Squirrel, and it was some kind of like mascot for the kids learning safety in Scotland. It was like, he said it was like Smokey the Bear. I think he said it was the Scotland version of Smokey the Bear. I
Did he say
think
that in the book or in the TV series?
in the TV. I think he said in the TV series.
I just don't remember that one.
Okay. Well, anyway, I remember Tufty, so that was a callback. Um. Okay. Oh, and is Roger sounding more Scottish to you? Just a general
It, it,
observation.
it was a little bit, maybe just because now he's back in his day. Yeah, I don't know. He's really laying on the accent thick.
Yeah. It's like when I get around my family and I really start talking like them. It just happens. Um, okay, so first picture. So there we have Buck Mackenzie, William Buckley Mackenzie. In the book, he's around for a while, and he goes to a church and gets like clothes, modern clothes. He has a job. And I think, if I remember, because I went to look it up and my kids had gotten a hold of my book and now I don't know where it is. So I'm pretty sure he like finds a minister, and he sees Roger, um but it makes more sense to me that he's in the show that he's like hiding out and he's still in his 18th century clothes, because in the book he starts talking about. I mean, he's been around a while, I understand, but he starts talking about cars. I'm like, how do you even know what they're called? Because when you're going back in time, at least you have history to look back on and say, this is a carriage. This is, you know what I mean? This is a spinning wheel. He has no reference to what a car is. You know what I mean? He's like, those roaring carriages you call cars, which makes more sense to me in the TV show.
Yeah, the
So,
way they introduced him to the TV show makes sense. If I had
yeah,
just leapt through time, then I probably would just be petrified of everything as well.
right.
Just be like
Mhm.
keeping a low profile and trying not to be killed by these steel dragons flying across the roads. I like.
Yeah, yes. Um, and I was thinking about it. I forgot about this during the during when Buck showed up at the end of the last show, and I'm like, "Are you supposed to know who that is?" Because I knew who it was, but if you don't read the books, or if you hadn't read the books in a long time and you never read them, Ryan, you had no idea who that was supposed to be.
No, no.
And obviously, it's not played by Graham McTavish, who played Buck in season 5. But here's the one thing: sometimes I think that they should have worked a little harder to get people that looked a little more like the character described in the books, only because one of the things that's supposed to be very distinctive about Galus and Roger, which is one of the things Claire realizes about Roger and Galus, is they're supposed to have very noticeable green eyes, and so is Buck McKenzie. And I almost feel like if they could, like, if they're supposed to have green eyes, could you not have gotten contacts to make their eyes look green while they're in the show? I don't know. I just feel like it's little things like that that maybe if you would have seen him with like really green eyes, you'd be like, oh, that's Buck. I don't know. Maybe
Maybe,
that's
very, very maybe. I mean, that's something I might have picked up on. If his eyes would have been, if they would have given Graham McTavish really green eyes,
mm-hmm.
even if Graham McTavish would have played him again, I don't think I would have, recognized him or
Oh,
remembered.
really? Would you be
Yeah,
like, why is Graham Cavish back?
I just wouldn't. Yeah, have recognized the character. He didn't look
Yeah,
very Graham McTavish to me when he played
yeah,
Buck to begin with.
that's true. We didn't know it was him when we watched the episode until we saw the like behind the scenes or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, there was something else I was gonna say about characters that are supposed to have certain characteristics. Oh, I know what it was. Um, no, it was when Roger said, "This is not the same Buck McKenzie that I met at Alamance." And I'm like, "It sure isn't," because it's a completely different actor. But then I was like, even if they could have, even if Graham McTavish would have been able to play Buck, I don't think that we would have had any sympathy towards him, because he was, to me, he was like more of an ass and more of a jerk. And Dougal could have been, was in very many ways an ass and a jerk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I think that was another reason why it was good that they didn't have Graham McTavish play Buck.
They kind of need to give Buck like a new start, kind of like reset
Yeah.
him a little bit.
And I think you have to have some sympathy for him too. You know, you don't have to be, you have to, he has to be like a likable character,
Yeah, I
which
kind
I
of
don't.
was. I kind of was on Roger's side more than Bree's side about this, about him, like forgiving him and letting him into their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Okay. So the next picture. So there's Richardson, and then is he? I think he's a lieutenant too. I can't remember his last name. It starts with H. Hudson, Hutton, something like that. But William's friend Sandy, and then William. And I cannot remember if Captain Richardson even makes another appearance in book 7. I know that William tries to find out who who Richardson is, and in his travels within the army, he meets. This is in the book, and this might be a TV spoiler because this character might show up later, but I'm not sure. He's not a big part of the book. Um, but he runs into Dennis Randall Isaacs, who is the son of Blackjack and Mary Hawkins. And of course, he's not his real son. But she remarries a guy named whose last name is Isaac, so his name is Dennis Randall Isaac. So William interacts with him a little bit and tries to find out a little bit about Richardson. And where did he say something about? I might have to bring this up later. I wrote it down. Okay, I'll bring this up later. But that's all I had to say about that scene. Richardson is still around, and I don't think he's in the books again. I don't think he shows up again until book 8. But I don't have a picture of this, but I wanted to say another callback when Buck is eating I presume it's peanut butter and jelly, and he says it's good, but it sticks in their craw, which is kind of like there's the peanut butter and jelly that Bree made Claire when she went back through the stones in season 3, and then there's the peanut butter and jelly that Claire made for Jimmy, Roger, and Bree when they try to go back in season 5, and Jamie's like, you could mend shoes with it or something like that. So there's another like callback to something that happened in the past. That's all I had to say about that.
Okay, Richardson. This I wondered kind of where he was going with sending William off to deliver the next message, because we kind of don't really kind of see where he's going yet. He seems like he has kind of not ulterior motives, but like he
like,
seems
what's
like he's
his deal?
yeah. What's his deal?
Yeah.
I can't tell if he sent William to to be his second, to be his messenger, as a way to punish him, and so he wouldn't get to join the battle as like because he knows William wants to be in the fight. He wants to,
I forgot to write that down because I thought about it later. I'm like, why does he want William not to be in this battle, and why?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Was it intentional? I mean, it was intentional, but was it kind of this is your punishment? You don't get to stay around and get the glory that you want so badly, or was it that
Okay.
hey, I really trust you with this, and I need you to do it because this is your shot at redemption.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but yeah, just keep an eye on Richardson. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Nope, just that.
Oh, the only other thing I wanted to say was the guy playing Sandy reminds me of Matthew from Downton Abbey. That's all. If anyone has watched Downton Abbey. Okay, that's all. Next one. I like this. I love this scene with Jamie saying like you need spectacles. In the book, Claire is much more feisty about Jamie saying that she needed glasses, but I think maybe she wasn't as feisty in the book in the TV show because they had already shown her wearing glasses um at the end of season 2, the last episode. But I think they might have done that, had her wear glasses because they needed to age them. And it's hard to age people without it looking ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
She has
it
like
is.
the strip of gray hair, but you can't, you know what I mean? You can't have it too fake. And I think it's really hard. I think they've done a good job doing it because they're supposed to, when 2014 started, I think they were both, if they weren't 40. I think they were in their late 30s, and they were supposed to be, Jamie was supposed to be 23 and Claire was supposed to be 27 or 28. And then you jump like 20, and I even remember when I started watching, I'm like, she does not look like she looks older than her 20s. And then when I realized the time thing, I'm like, oh well, you can't cast someone who's 28 and then age them. That would be even worse. But I think maybe that's why it didn't play as much, that she was annoyed because she had already had like the glasses, and Jamie also has glasses, which he doesn't have in the book, which I think was another thing that they added because they need to age him somehow. Would you go with that?
Yeah, the spectacles help to show that time has passed, and
That's an inside joke.
yeah.
I
So
don't know
yeah,
if you
that
meant it that
helps.
way, but that's how I took
That's
it.
yeah, that's how. Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. And then they don't have. He doesn't have the dark hair that Claire does, and so the gray wouldn't
Yeah.
go as well for aging.
Right. And I think that I think in some cases, not all cases, but people that have red hair when they grow older, it like fades. They don't necessarily keep like the bright red with the gray. I think it can like more be faded because his hair looks like you can still tell it has like that red hue to it, but it's more like
Well,
a strawberry
can you tell
blondish.
right here, like a little bit
Yeah.
of gray? Is that coming through?
I don't know. I'll look closer and see if it, because I had read comments, and I mean YouTube comments. What can you take from that? Strangers on the internet. But they said like what they knew family members that had gray hair or redheads. They didn't get like gray hair. It was like white. So
Okay.
but anyway, that was just it. But I just love they have that like little interaction still, and they have that like in the middle of this preparing for battle. So I like that kind of just showing their relationship like that, and it's not always like we're getting ready to kill someone again. So
Yeah, it was a nice moment. I don't have too much to add to that, but it was a nice
yeah.
little.
Um. Oh, okay. So before you go to the next picture, I did. This might be a spoiler because this is what's happening in a book at this time, and they haven't mentioned it at all. So they might just skip it, but it might come up later. But so Lord John, if you're wondering where Lord John is at this time, in the book, he's in England and he's trying to figure out who Richardson is. And there's this other character. Again, this might be a spoiler because he might show up in book 8. He keeps turning up like a bad penny, shall we say? And his name is Percival, and his last name is French. I'm gonna try to pronounce it right. Bouchau, but his last name is Claire's maiden name, which the English pronunciation is Beecham.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
sounded like you had three too many syllables there for a French word.
all I said was Bouchau.
I know what I said.
Well, anyway, so um, Diana Gabaldon wrote a series of books. It's I haven't read them, but they're the Lord John series, and they kind of cover the space when Lord John. I think it's I don't know actually, but it's all Lord John stories, and so they might cover this story more because Percy is from his past, and his father, Percy's father, was married to Lord John's mother. So they were stepbrothers and they like had a relationship. And Percy, I don't know how, maybe it was probably explained in the Lord John series, but somehow Percy's found out and he's supposed to like be hung for his crimes. And John helps him escape, I guess. So everyone thinks he's dead and he's not dead. But he shows up. He is married to one of actually I'm not going to go into all this because I'll go into all of this at a different time. The point is Lord John is in England and he stops at a place called the Beefsteak, which I'm pretty sure is a real place. It might still exist now, but when Sandy says it's not the beefsteak, I think he says, or I'd rather go to the beefsteak. Whatever he says about the beefsteak club, Lord John is there this time in the book. So I wonder if that was just like a nod to that.
That this was the
That
scene.
if you read the book, that Sandy had said that as a nod to in the book, John is in England, and one of the scenes
Oh, okay.
in the book is at the beefsteak club. Because that's just a random thing to say. It seems like,
Yeah.
and how you wouldn't know. Do you know what the Beefsteak Club is? No. Oh, you'd only know that if it's a real place, which I think it is, or if you read the book. So I feel like that was a nod to the book readers, is
Okay.
all I was gonna say. All right, now you can move on. Rob, Bree, and Roger. Or not Roger. Rob, yeah, Rob, Bree,
Yeah.
and Roger. Okay. So, in the so when Rob says like he was married to a girl and they divorced and he took his son, in the book there's another character that confirms this story. Who knows him, who's a relative, but I'm like, did you get a vibe? And this might be what the case in the book. I almost feel like he made it up to like get sympathy or something, because he's so, as we later find out, he's so deceitful. Do you think he would do something like that? Because no, who's gonna check up on if he has a son in France? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right. It's like the girlfriend in Canada. Like you're never really gonna
Mhm.
be sure about that.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. I I don't know.
Okay.
So I think as I was getting these screenshots, I began thinking about this a little bit more. And
Hmm.
you know, he read uh, Roger's book of time travel and
Yes.
like how you have to have someone guide you, or how you have to have a thought about somebody to guide you.
Hmm.
And then you have the gemstone as your toll. And I don't really know why he took Jemmy, but I was wondering if why did he go through the stones in the first place? Why would you want to do that? Um,
Hmm.
is it just for funsies to see what the past is like, or was he one of those guys who regretted his divorce? He was like, I can go back in time and change things and make things better if I had a second chance. And so I'm wondering if
Hmm.
he went back in time to uh, try and salvage his marriage.
Hmm. That it, well, Ian said something similar to that when he found out that Bree and Claire could do that. So I mean, obviously I know,
Right.
which,
Yeah, Ian asked, like, can,
but that's like your perspective. Like, why would he want to go in the past,
there has
and
to be
why
a
would he?
reason to, right? There has to be a
Oh
reason.
yeah,
There has to be a reason that they could make a storyline out of. It's not just, I want to go back and place some money on the soccer game, and become a millionaire. Like it's like that's not a reasonable
like
thing for
like
like Back to the Future. Yeah,
yeah. I was gonna say like Back to the
yeah,
Future
no,
with
no,
the
no.
baseball games. Was it the
Yeah,
baseball games?
it was all kind of games.
Okay.
The Sports Almanac. But anyways,
Yeah.
like that's not a great storyline for this series. So it has to be something personal that happened to him that he wants to go back and change. I think.
Okay. I like Roger's face here, where he's just like, "What am I gonna do? Get him out of the house!"
I did. I tried to
like,
get a good. I tried to get Roger in a
yeah,
good kind of like, "What are we doing? Get him out!" like frame, but I couldn't get them all in the same frame. Uh,
yeah.
it was good.
Roger's look all through like that whole like trying to get him out the door. His looks were great. Um. Okay, so next one.
Okay, this was great. I almost laughed out loud when I saw this.
I just, there was nothing I wanted to say except that I just love this picture. It's like it's like three kids on the couch watching
the
TV.
the grin, the
And,
goofy ass grin on his face is just priceless. I just want everyone to just sit here for just a second in quiet and stare at his goofy ass face and just appreciate how awesome this shot is.
I that is only second to Claire's face after Tom Chrissy kissed her.
That is, we've had two fantastic, just facial expression scenes in this season.
This is like, it was like the picture where I was like, I just wanted to show this because I liked um Bree's sweater. I only wanted to show this because I just love this scene. Okay, go on.
No, no, okay. Okay, okay. Now I'm good.
Okay, so I love Buck's expression when he like looks at Rob the way he like puts his arm on Brianna. And you know what I was thinking about it? I was like, his expression is kind of like what Jamie's expression would have been if he saw that.
Yeah, it was a very like huffy expression.
Yes, I think it was a. I don't think it was Hovey. I think it was a "I'm on to you" expression. And I could just see, I could imagine Jamie doing the exact same thing, except Jamie would have stood back and crossed his arms and just stared Rob down. So, Buck knows what's up though, man.
Does he
Um,
though? Does he? Because it seems to me that he's not Rob's not actually after Bree at all. It seems to me that Rob is trying to get in good with Bree to get the time travel information. I think he's just using all of them.
hmm, well, guess we'll see.
I guess that's a very suspicious way of answering that, hon. It's almost
I,
like he knows something.
of course, I know something.
Okay, but don't say it. Don't say it then.
I won't. I won't. Um,
But that was
so
good. That's a good expression. It's not one of my favorite expressions, but it was a good expression
yes,
of him kind of like just kind of bottling up that. Oh, I would punch him in the face if I could.
yeah. And the only one I wanted to say was like, um, oh, okay, I know what I wanted to say. The first one was I feel like the sex scene, honestly, the sex scene between Bree and Roger was like I read so many comments all the time on videos and online that they have like no chemistry. That Richard Rankin and Sophie Skelton have no chemistry, and I feel like they were just like, "Well, shit, chemistry." I don't know. That's just how I felt. I will never hear. What's that song? What's the song that they were playing?
What?
The Phil
Phil
Collins.
Collins song?
Yeah,
What is it?
Air at Night. Is that
Coming
the title?
in the air at night?
I just couldn't. I mean, I know the song. I couldn't think of what the actual title is, and I will
Yeah,
never hear that.
yeah. I love Phil Collins. I just forget the name of that
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
But yeah, I've never really seen that. I mean, they've had fine chemistry. It's like just it is what it is. It was never a Jamie and Claire thing. I
They
guess
never can be though. I keep
that,
telling
that
myself.
that's the thing. Whenever you have those two to compare against, like you're
Yeah,
up against a high bar to begin with.
yeah.
Yes, and
So
also that was very. I'm very used to seeing those scenes with some kind of bagpipes playing in the background or fiddles or something.
I know, right?
Some kind of
Some kind of
upbeat Scottish
orchestral.
music. Then all of a sudden Phil Collins
Yeah,
jumps in here. Like
yeah.
it's fine.
So, the other thing I wanted to say, and all this might be a possible spoiler. Again, they skipped over it now, but it might come up in the future. Bree or Buck does tell Bree that he did try to go back through the stones, but he caught on fire. It like spit him back out, and he was like on fire. And he shows her, um, he has a scar over his chest from it.
Whoa,
So I don't.
that's different.
Yeah, that's not good, right?
Yeah, I don't know anyone
So
who's like self-immolated themselves by by touching the
So
stones.
that's why he hasn't tried again because he did try and he so I
Wait,
don't know if they're just gonna
didn't
hmm?
Claire touch the stones a couple times, like after she came back through? After I forget whether if she did it whenever she first went through and came back in time, or whenever she left Jamie the first time and came back to the present, she touched the stones and nothing happened. She didn't burst into.
No,
Did
no, the
she?
only thing that came close to that was when Claire went to go back and Jamie pulled her back, but she didn't touch the stone in the TV show. In the book, she actually starts going back, starts to go somehow, is how Jamie describes it, and he pulls her back, but she never touches it in the show.
This adds all kind of mechanical wrinkles to time travel that I am uncomfortable with. Like he grabs
Well,
her, and he's like mid time travel. How is this happening? Is it like
That's I'm just telling you how they describe it in the book. You
Mm,
started to go somehow. I don't know if that means disappearing, but I do know, and I said it before, that um Ronald D. Moore, who was like who's like the creator of the series, that he never wanted the like special effects of disappearing through the stones. So that's
good.
why they didn't have.
That's hopefully they keep it like that, and I'll refrain from my sci-fi nerd outs here on time travel as long as they don't do stuff like that in the actual TV series.
Now Jamie has hit the stone, and I think maybe Frank did too, and nothing happened obviously because they can't travel.
Right, right.
So,
So
but
people who
but
can't travel is just
right,
stones.
right. So okay, so pop to the next one. So there, what did you call her? The psychic child.
Yeah, yeah. This one I am having a little bit of trouble with because I guess okay. So they have a connection that uh,
Connection.
Brie- the connection that Bree explicitly
Yeah.
tells all of us dumb viewers. Um,
That okay. That really, really, that was like the one part of the show that I was like, really, really,
I guess
because
they added that in there because yeah. Okay, so we know that that Jemmy has some sort of psychic abilities because he was able to
yeah.
tell that she could travel. And even saying psychic abilities is a bit much, but he has some powers or abilities. They never said anything else about a connection between them, which I guess is
I
why
was
they had to explicitly say this in that one sentence, just so like, okay, well, now we know.
like, do you think that was necessary? I think. Well, you didn't read the book, so do you think that was necessary as a non-book reader?
Uh if I'll say this, if they didn't do it explicitly now, they would have had to spend more time later, um, really kind of sussing out that they have some kind of psychic connection rather than just Jemmy being having some kind of.
But I think they could have done that. I don't. I just. I
No,
don't
they
know.
could have.
But like I
They
said,
could
like
have.
I know, like I knew. So her being like their connection was just like really.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just
I think
irritating.
this was the quick way out. This was the easy way out. They took the easy way out. That's all.
And the other thing though too was, and it could be because children actors are really hard to deal with. I'm sure this is a child, but like the way it was described in the book is, did you ever have, I mean, we have kids, we have young kids, like when a kid wakes up from a dream and they're still kind of like in that dream and they're kind of like not making sense. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of still asleep and then they like kind of fall back asleep.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it's described in the book. Like she's kind of still in a nightmare. So they're not really sure what she's talking about. And then like when she wakes up, I'll just this it's a spoiler, but she wakes up the next day and she like doesn't even remember it because it's more like a waking nightmare that she has. So they're still like not, but she's really really freaking out and hit herself in the head. Um, but they're still like not really sure what she's talking about. So so I just thought it was like really, like, I don't know, the whole like their connection was like, but
I assume that
excuse me,
becomes significant later. Um, but
you
yeah.
just right. I'm just,
Okay. So I just assume that they had to say that because again, because they didn't want to take the time to kind of tease it out like a little more tactfully
yeah,
and sensitively throughout other episodes.
maybe, but anyway, um, so okay, so we're wrapping up
Yep.
the last scene. There's I can't remember his title. Brigadier. He's a I don't know if they ever call him that, but in the book he's a brigadier. Simon
Brigadier General.
Fraser. He's a real person in history.
Okay.
So, and William's like haven't, it's like he admires him. And William, when Sandy gets shot, and William like goes like a little like bonkers, understandably. And I kind of wonder because we kind of say that William's kind of like immature and whatnot, but I don't know how old he is. I think he's supposed to only be like 18, like not too old. Um, and we don't see Jamie, at least in the series, before he's 23. So maybe he was, maybe he was like William at that age. But
I'm sure a lot of young men back then were, and that seems like fairly typical for someone in the British Army. They're gunning, they're really revved up for the glory and honor, and it's all this noble profession, and
especially because so many of them were from the nobility.
right, they were raised up to be genteel and very sheltered, and then all of a sudden, someone takes a bullet to the brain, a half a foot away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's gonna do things to you.
Yeah, and that connection. No, seriously, but like the connection he has with Simon Fraser, and him understanding how it is, and you'll be a different man. But it's interesting that William doesn't know that even though he feels like this admiration towards the brigadier, he is his kin. He's related to him, although very distantly related.
Yep.
So,
And the general there, Brigadier General,
mm.
I think he knew this was coming. He knew exactly
Oh
what was
yeah.
like. You could just kind of hear it in his voice, like, "You really want this, huh?" Like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
well, here you go. You've got what you wanted. Like, monkey, you
He
just
was
monkeypod yourself.
he that actor played a good part.
Mhm.
Simon Fraser. He played a good part.
I didn't
Or
really
is
like him at first when I first heard him, but
mm,
then like as I kind of saw his character more, he like it really hooked me. He was played it really well.
you mean like the last episode when you just saw him when William like showed up at the fort?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really wasn't. I thought he was just kind of like the tubby redcoat guy, um, but then he really was kind of he was
hmm
wise to the ways of war.
hmm
He
And
understood.
he said he. Well, I was gonna say he said he would rather be with his men than at the dinner or whatever. And William did the same thing when he got into the ditch and started digging the graves too.
Yeah, he had to, and that's why I think that's because you kind of heard the other men starting to rebel a little bit, be like, no, we're gonna be done now." And then
hmm
he and William flipped out at them, and then he got in the ditch as well. And then when no, as soon as they saw him get in the ditch and start digging, they're like, "Well, if our lieutenant is digging a ditch, we ain't gonna stop now."
Yeah. So, overall, this episode, I felt like the last couple episodes I've said this, we're like building. We got introduced to the hunters. Um, so we got like character building. We're wondering like, what's the Knuckle Levy? What's up with Rob Cameron? What's up with Richardson? And then in like several of those cases, it's coming to the boiling point. So so obviously this episode wasn't the boiling point. That'll be next episode, which by the way is not next week. Someone had commented on our last video and I checked the schedule. Um the mid-season finale will be on August 11th. So it will probably, and that's the premiere of Men in Kilts too. So I'm assuming that Outlander will be on, I guess, at 8 at the usual time, and then Men in Kilts will premiere after that at like 9 o'clock.
Oof. Are we gonna? We're not gonna stay up and watch Men in Kilts after that, are we? We're not gonna stay up till 2 a.m., are we?
No, I can't do
Uh,
it. We'll
yeah,
just,
it'll be next day. It'll be the next day.
yeah. Um, yeah. So I would like,
That's an excellent. I don't know if anyone's not watched that. I imagine anyone watching Outlander is also going to watch Men in Kilts. But if you have not watched Men in Kilts, it is hilarious, and you absolutely need to watch this.
it's like, to me, it's like Graham McTavish is the uncle trying to force his nephew into appreciating culture and stuff, and his nephew's just a goofball. It's like really what it is.
His nephew is trying to force his uncle into doing really crazy shit, like that upsets him for the humor of all of us.
if anyone has seen the episode or last season or have not seen it, when Graham McTavish was on that cliff and he's like deathly afraid of heights and he was like having a panic attack. Like I felt that. I started having like a panic attack. I was like, oh, I can't watch this. So, because I totally understood where he was coming from. Um, but yeah, just get into. I'm not gonna say too much about next episode. Just that it's obviously if you've seen the previews, it's gonna be like, you know, it was this episode was the cliffhanger I kept predicting. That last scene was what I was gonna say, what the cliffhanger was gonna be. I just didn't know what episode it was gonna end. So I'm
Well,
thinking that.
the
Hmm?
next one's obviously going to be a cliffhanger too, because it's the mid-season break. So we're going to have something big then. It's not going to let us down easy. You can be assured of
I
that.
think they're I think they're gonna head to Scott. I think they're gonna like end the first half of the season with them on the boat to Scotland.
Really? I
Yeah.
mean, okay, maybe.
Well, here's the thing.
There's a lot to wrap up in this next episode. Then
Here's the thing. So Bree and Roger's storyline is almost at the end of book 7. Like where they are on the show is almost the end of Bree and Roger's storyline. But because I keep saying like the storylines are Bree and Rogers are only like a couple weeks, and Jamie and Claire's is like at least a couple months. Um, Maybe even longer because if you consider like their storyline started at when did they go back? I can't remember now. Well, anyway, their storylines don't match up. So Bree and Roger's storyline, Rob taking Jemmy is almost at the end of their storyline of book 7, but or Jamie and Claire's storyline is still like has a lot to go in book 7. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
kind of. We'll just
So
see how it plays out in the show.
a lot of book 8 is gonna have to be in season 7B. So um they're not gonna wrap up with Bree and Roger. I think that's gonna be more of a cliffhanger
Sure.
than
And
Claire
they,
and
I'm not expecting them
Sam.
to wrap up, but it would be weird if they didn't touch on those storylines now in the next episode. And even given that, there's a lot of storylines to touch on before the next episode ends. So that's why I don't know if they're going to get on the boat by then.
Like what do you think they have to wrap up before they get on the boat?
Well, I mean, Roger has to go back in time.
Gonna
Um,
go back in time.
and whatever Claire is pointing a sword at. Um, there's Jamie has said multiple times, I never want to be on the opposite side of a gun or a battlefield from my son. Well, that obviously has to happen because he jinxed himself with
Because
that.
he said he didn't want it to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As soon as he said that, I was like, well, that's going to happen, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I'm betting that will happen. They need to wrap up all of the battlefield stuff. He's still commissioned with the riflemen.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they have to wrap up their section of the war, and I don't see that happening in one more episode.
I don't know. It might be an extended episode. I'm not sure because I couldn't. Our TV guide didn't have the 11th, the episodes, or I guess the TV shows on the grid yet for the 11th. So I don't know how big of a space it's going to be. I don't know if it's just going to be an hour episode or if it's going to be extended.
If it's extended, then I'll walk that back. But given the single hour episode that we're used to, I'm having trouble seeing them fit it in. If it's extended, okay.
I just remember one more thing I wanted to bring up just real quick. So is Ian just wandering around with different Indian being scouts for the Continental Army? Is
I
that what we're supposed
probably
to think?
I think we're assuming that he's wandering around with whatever Indians have sided with the rebels, the Patriots.
Okay, I just want to make sure. It was just kind of this. He was randomly in for like 5 seconds, and I was like, what's he doing?" So that's all. I forgot because I had just forgotten to go back to that. All right, so I think that's it. I really like to do an episode in between or before the next the mid season finale, but I'm not sure what I want to talk about yet. I'll have to think
We'll
about it.
figure it out.
Yes. Alrighty, so everyone, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. All right, and then the next episode will be, or the next Outlander episode will be the mid-season finale. So get ready for that. It should be really, really good. I'm hoping. All right, anything else to say, Rye?
That's it. Just have a great night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye.